Wes Goldberg, happy Tuesday as we're recording this, my friend. People hearing this on Wednesday. Before we get to the big news of the day and the latest on Jimmy Butler, just got to ask you, Amen Thompson,
Oh,
top 5 most fun player in the NBA, top 5, like the last 3 games of Amen Thompson have signaled that there is like a superstar just waiting to fully come out of the cocoon there. Scale 1 to 10. What is your excitement level on what Amen Thompson can be over the next couple of years?
I'm all the way turned up to 11 at this point. I've been a Amon Thompson guy. I've been a fan of the Twins in general since they got into the league. What they could do defensively, it just leaps right off the screen. But now that you're putting all this together for Amon offensively, where it's not just the athleticism, Chris, but it's the athleticism combined with the instincts, combined with the basketball IQ, which was kind of always part of the thing with him. Even in, you talked to people before the draft and they were like, yeah, this guy's like a really smart basketball player. He really knows what he's doing. And to see this all come together in year 2 is pretty remarkable. I don't recall the last time I saw somebody just sort of put it all together this quickly in this way and be this productive. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the first name that kind of jumps out to me.
Yeah.
Where he had the crazy athleticism, but also just like a feel for the game that was undeniable. And that's where Amen Thompson is, right? This isn't necessarily like an Anthony Edwards, pop for me. Anthony Edwards was more incredible shot making, very traditional, old school kind of basketball player. Amen Thompson very much feels like what you'd want out of a basketball player. Maybe not even in 2025, but in like 2030, right? He kind of looked like when you're watching Amen Thompson play, it almost feels like you're looking into the future a little bit.
He feels like he's from the future of what the league is going to look like. I think that overstates a little bit when we say stuff like that, by like 2035, the league is just going to be full of guys like this. Like, he is still rare. Like, this kind of player is still rare. I love the SGA comp because I love that these guys both came from defensive backgrounds, right? Like, SGA's rookie year with the Clippers, you could have projected out a really great career. You would not have projected what he is right now based on that rookie year with the Clippers. It took the change of scenery and further development, but it was there. Thompson's rookie year did not necessarily signal, I think, that this was like waiting there to be had. But these last 3 games, particularly the Celtics game, where he was a menace on defense, had 33 points, hits a game winner. This is like a guy who, like, if you told me there's a chance he's an all-star like next year, I'd be like, yes. I think we're like on the path to be there. And it also tells you how much furthermore, for this moment, if he holds this up the rest of the year, and there probably will be some ups and downs because he's still young, this Rockets team is legit as hell, and whoever gets him in the playoffs is going to be absolutely up against it. Like, this Rockets team is here. They beat the Cavs twice. Recently, Cavs a little bit banged up, but they beat the Cavs twice. They just beat Boston. The Rockets are absolutely legit, and Amen Thompson's ascension is just an integral part of that, and everything else you can say about them. They're great.
And what's kind of crazy here in terms of the storyline is he was coming off the bench for them as this energy kind of sixth man. And
SGA.
Jabari Smith Jr. goes down and he steps in and they can't move him back to the bench. So they've got something that they've got to figure out here when Jabari Smith gets back here. I don't know if that means benching Smith. I don't know if it means benching somebody else that's part of that starting lineup, but Amen Thompson has to be a part of this starting lineup going forward. There is no way that you could demote him now after what he's been doing. And to your point, I think the Rockets are legit. I have been a Rockets skeptic pretty much all season, not denying that they're good. Like, they're obviously a good team that they're a good team that can beat good teams, and they do beat good teams often in the regular season. I was just skeptical about their playoff ceiling. I'm still probably a little skeptical about their playoff ceiling just because of how young they are. But this is also a team that it's one of those classic cases where we focus on what they can't do, which is essentially score in the half court consistently, and we don't focus on everything that they do well, which is basically everything else. This team is a monster defensively. They're a great offensive rebounding team. They score. They're one of the best transition teams in the league on both ends, transition defense and transition offense. Like, this team does everything at a high level other than score in the half court. Now, it doesn't, I don't mean to belittle, like scoring in the half court is a big deal, especially in the postseason. And it's why I'm still a little skeptical of what they can do, but
Sure.
like, who cares? Like, what are we even talking about? Like, this team has the foundation for everything that they would need. They have the draft picks that they need to build. They don't have to they don't have to be in a rush. And I think the biggest question I had over Houston's future was, okay, who's going to be the superstar? Or is this going to be a bunch of really like fun B+ level players? And based on what we've seen from Amen Thompson, this guy has perennial all-star, all NBA type potential. And so the answer to that big sort of existential question of what does this all really mean for Houston, I think is answered because of the presence of Amen Thompson. I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, Chris, because I think that is his ceiling, like superstar player on a very competitive team.
If we jump the gun, sometimes it's good to just buy into some fun.
Yeah.
And I didn't even mean to rhyme there. All right, on today's show, De'Aaron Fox. Boy, oh boy. He is now on the trade market. And the latest on Jimmy Butler, a lot of NBA trades. If it's that time of year, a week away from the NBA trade deadline, let's get into it.
Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Oh, LeBron James with no regard for human life.
What is up, everyone? Chris Manning and Wes Goldberg here on the Just Basketball Show, your twice weekly show covering all things hoops. Wes, why don't you tell everyone today about who we're powered by, and that's BetMGM.
Support for today's episode of the Just Basketball Show comes from BetMGM. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use the bonus code JustBasketball and you'll get up to $1,500 and a first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android. Sign up using the code JustBasketball. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure to use the bonus code JustBasketball when you sign up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older to wager. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, Wes, let's get into De'Aaron Fox, because this is the kind of news, this is the kind of player, and the wording around this player that I think can shake up the league right now. This is the kind of thing that's going to have ripple effects. De'Aaron Fox has not been willing to sign an extension. Shams got this first, I believe. The Kings are quote, expected to open up talks for a potential De'Aaron Fox trade ahead of the February 6th deadline, end quote, according to Shams. Lakers not on his list. Apparently there's a bunch of teams interested, but he has a preferred destination he would like to go to. That has not been said by any of the major newsbreakers publicly as of yet, I don't think. We kind of know who it's not. If Fox goes somewhere, and I would say there's a couple places that make a lot of sense. One team that we've known has had an interest in him for quite a while. This is the kind of guy that can elevate a team right this season. It can change the trajectory of the Kings as a franchise. If Fox gets, I will say this, De'Aaron Fox getting traded before the deadline, Wes, is a bigger deal than if Jimmy Butler gets traded or not, and it's not even a question. Like, this would be the biggest move. This is a star trade move, guy in his prime type move ahead of the deadline that can have massive ripple effects on the league if it gets done in the next week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Right? I mean, he's 27. He's I think he's been on an all NBA team, at least in a couple of years ago. Having a little bit of a down year right now. It's been a weird season in Sacramento, but no question that this guy could be a real difference maker for the right team. Now, I don't know what team that is necessarily. We've gotten reports that the Houston Rockets, even though that De'Aaron Fox, he has a home in Houston, the Rockets are not interested, according to Kelly Iko from The Athletic.
In season, I believe was the wording. In season. They would be interested
in
maybe
season,
in the summer,
right?
but
And
like
so I think
yeah.
what we just talked about with Amen Thompson with the Rockets, they're probably just like, we'll wait and see and figure this out. And just because, and there's no guarantee that Fox gets traded before the deadline just because they're listening to offers here, but clearly the relationship there in Sacramento has run its course, right? De'Aaron Fox has looked around, decided that he's not going to sign an extension with Sacramento, and the Kings are trying to get in front of it and basically do the opposite of what Miami did, which was as soon as it became clear that the extension was not going to happen, let's start let's start talking trades. What can we get for this guy? And let's do it. And maybe doing it sooner rather than later is the best route for us going forward. So I get where Sacramento's coming from. You know, the team that's been tied to De'Aaron Fox for the longest has been the San Antonio Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
They have been a team that a lot of league insiders have pointed to as a team that could be willing to trade some stuff to get De'Aaron Fox. You pair De'Aaron Fox with Victor Wembanyama, that just makes a lot of sense. It's been reported by a couple of more local, like Sacramento-based insiders that maybe San Antonio is the destination that De'Aaron Fox prefers. But we have no indication if the Spurs are ready to kind of make that type of move, right? I think that stuff is still remains to be seen. So I think the bidding is wide open. I don't know how many teams can realistically like beat the Spurs if the Spurs were to get interested in De'Aaron Fox. The Spurs have a lot of stuff that they could move in a deal. But I think the bidding is going to be wide open. I think there's a lot of teams that could use De'Aaron Fox.
There are two fits I think are perfect. I think it's the Spurs and I think it's the Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two fits that I think are the best. Though I would, you could throw the Wolves or something in there as well. The Wolves just don't have the assets. I'm not sure the Heat.
Yeah.
It's two ball handlers, but it's like they just need talent. It's kind of like I think the situation the Wolves are in, and maybe we'll talk about Julius Randle at some point before. Did you, by the way, see a part of the Jumbotron almost like falling and hitting Rudy Gobert? Did you see this clip? Did you see this? That during the game the other night, like a piece of the Jumbotron almost fell and hit Rudy Gobert in Minnesota?
I did not see that, no.
Wolf season metaphor, just staring you in the face. The part about this, Wes, that I actually find the most like kind of interesting is that the Kings are 11-4 under Doug Christie. Like how this coming out now when the Kings, not that the Kings they're still 10th, I believe, in the West. I don't think anyone thinks of this team as having a great chance of going any farther, but they've been better and just been more collective as a unit. Since Mike Brown got let go, they went on a nice win streak. It's been a little bit more closer to 500 since then. But they've had a good run, including some beating Houston and beating the Celtics and beating the Heat in double overtime and winning at Golden State and beating Memphis. They've beat some good teams in that stretch. This would lead me to think that this coming on now tells you Fox is like, I don't see how this gets any better, even if we're winning right now. He's looking big picture. And it's the clutch being his agency, and them just be apparently already telling teams he will not sign certain places, trying to get in one place, tells you that like there's a very specific place he wants to go. And maybe it is the Spurs, and that's where this has been going all along. I think to your point about what they can give up. They can give up the most, but it's going to be like a very picks heavy package. They don't have the like you go on like Fanspo and you can look at the fake trades. Like the one, like you're asking for Stephon Cassell. You're like, and if I'm the Spurs, I think I'm trying to, like, I don't know how you can do it or if you can. I really don't want to give him up in this trade. I really, really don't. I'd rather give up anyone else besides Castle and Wemby. Like anyone else, ask about them. I think they're on the table. Can you do this with like giving up just a bunch of picks and you keep Castle? And like Keldon Johnson goes and Branham goes and Bassey goes, whatever it is. Pirtle goes for like whatever it is. But can you keep Castle and just trade picks and like you go Fox, Castle, Wemby? Like is that the path? I think that's the way I'd be most comfortable because I just love Castle so damn much.
Yeah, no. If you're the Spurs, you're not trying to. I wouldn't give up Stephon Castle. There's no way I would give him up because what he does defensively would make the De'Aaron Fox thing work. And I know that Victor Wembanyama is there and basically can cover up for everything defensively. If I'm the Spurs, I'm not trying to just be merely like 10th in defense. I've got Victor Wembanyama. I want to be the best freaking defense the league has ever seen.
Yes.
And I don't know how many minus defenders you can have, even in a lineup with Victor Wembanyama. So I would go, if I'm getting De'Aaron Fox, then to me, Wembanyama and Stephon Castle are off the table. But Devin Vassell's a good player. Keldon Johnson has moments. Like there's other things there, and with a bunch of draft picks, maybe they can do something. But I don't know how much of a step back Sacramento wants to take.
That's
right. Like
yeah.
When you trade De'Aaron Fox, you still have Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan, who you just signed. You kind of have your young player that you like in Keegan Murray. I think they want to keep Doug Christie around. I don't know how much of a step back that this team realistically wants to take. Now, maybe it wouldn't be that dramatic of a step back. You'll have Malik Monk, who can elevate into that starting lineup. You have him, maybe and Devin Vassell, if he comes over, Keldon Johnson, if he comes over, like there's still some talent on that team, no question about it. And an all NBA caliber guy in Sabonis, right? And so there's stuff there. But I also don't know if beggars get to be choosers here either, if you're Sacramento, because if Rich Paul is out here telling and informing teams whether or not his client is going to re-sign with them or not, we've seen Clutch do this before, but they can kind of limit the pool to a point where the Kings are sort of just forced to take what they want. And that's probably why the Kings are trying to get out in front of this. It's better to trade your guy early than to trade your guy late, especially in these scenarios where you have as much possible leverage versus if you wait even a year from now when De'Aaron Fox isn't on that extension and is on an expiring contract, maybe you don't have as much leverage.
I think the problem is even if I think Wes, I would just say I think even if they don't want to take a step back, I think they're gonna. This is the end of something here. Like whatever's gonna come next is gonna take. It's gonna be a while.
And they probably should take that. They should take a step back. They should get these picks. They need to go get that superstar player.
Yeah. But even with Sabonis is 28. He's still in his prime. You have him, I think, under contract. I'm looking at his deal now. Pull up B-ball ref. He is under contract.
He's under contract for a few more years.
Yeah, he's got bad podcasting. He's paid through 2028, making less than $50 million that season. Which, under the next cap, if his production holds up, that's not a horrible figure under that cap, even if he's limited as a center. It's going to take you a year or two to figure this out. It's going to be hoping Keegan Murray can take a step forward. It's going to be nailing your draft picks. It's going to be nailing all these things. Fox has been the pillar of this organization for about as long as he's been there, especially since the breakout. He's been the face that you move on from him, you have to trade him. The step back is coming, especially in the West. I think picks, and then if there's if it's Vassell, if it's Keldon Johnson, if some of the guys you like on the fringes can come in and help create some depth now and help keep building this culture under Doug Christie, that's probably the best case here, right? I think you're right considering Vivek, considering what that market has been, how fun it's been that they've been good again the last couple of years. A major step back would be, I think, an absolute kick to the nuts. I don't think they have to go all the way back that way either, but it's going to be
right for a team that's been. Yeah, it's been 2 decades out of the playoffs. I understand. For most teams, I would say if you're trading a guy like De'Aaron Fox, then go ahead and do the next logical thing and trade Sabonis. Start taking offers for DeRozan at the end of his career. Whatever it's going to be, just start taking offers for everybody that's 28 years old or older.
I would probably still take a
maybe, but
if you could trade DeRozan, I think
for that fan base. For that fan base, I mean, look, you can listen to offers. I don't think you're going to get anything crazy for those guys, though. And so, for that fan base that's been starved for playoff success and I think appreciates just making the first round of the playoffs, I probably would just stay where I'm at even without De'Aaron Fox, but that could just ultimately end up in them sort of doing the whole treadmill of mediocrity thing. But look, if you're on the treadmill of mediocrity, I know it feels like Sacramento's been there forever. It's only been 2.5 years that they've been on this thing. Spend a little bit more time on that treadmill. It's okay. Burn some calories. You haven't been on that treadmill in a really long time. It's all right. Just be on that treadmill for a while, even if you do have to trade De'Aaron Fox. If you get some picks back and stuff like that, you actually have the stuff that could get potentially at least help you pursue that next star. Because let's be real. If Sacramento's not going to do the full-blown tank, then drafting that next superstar is really difficult. And nobody out DeMar DeRozan notwithstanding, nobody's signing there as a free agent, not a star player at the peak of their powers. So you might as well just put a bunch of stuff together that allows you to maybe trade for that star and be in the mix with that. And that's what I'd probably be looking for if I was Sacramento. But I don't know, man. To you, where would you be most excited? Go ahead.
I just want to throw the thing I would not do that I get would be tempting. Would be to try to be at this deadline. If you're doing this deal and there's all these other trades going on, it's we could be the home for Bradley Beal. We could be the home for Zach LaVine. I don't want to do that if I'm them. I would rather just have the picks and the role guys and give yourself you are a team right now and a franchise that doesn't have a ton of flexibility right now. You already kind of that you don't have a ton. This isn't a great way to create flexibility, but the way you can look at this is you get a chance to do a soft reset here. I would not just want to go bring in big salary
Yeah,
after
but
losing Fox.
that would be the Sacramento Kings thing to do, wouldn't it?
I mean, they were the
Like,
team that also tried
I
to sign
don't-
Levine to a big offer sheet at one point in time. Like Levine
I
would be
know,
the one that
so-
I would wonder if they'd go after, but I would. That's not the path I would go down. I could totally see them doing it though.
Okay, so let's do this two ways then. I don't think the Beal thing is on the table. I don't think that there's a team out there that wants to acquire Beal with that no trade clause. So
or he's like, I don't
given
want to go to
that-
the Bulls, which is just like, okay, then I guess you're not getting traded, and the Suns are going to be the Suns. Okay.
Levine feels like a very Kingsy move. But then what? That's De'Aaron Fox to Chicago, or is that De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio, stuff to
think it's-
Chicago, Levine to
Yeah,
Sacramento?
it's that. I think
Yeah.
Fox ends up in, let's say, San Antonio. The bulk of the picks go to Chicago.
And what, they'd be like,
hey,
Well, Levine and DeRozan worked out so well for Chicago. We should probably just reunite them in Sacramento.
with
That's sort of the idea there.
yeah. It's like, let's just go get a name guy who can score and we have under contract. Like that would be the idea.
Here's another Kingsian type of move.
Oh boy.
Jimmy Butler for De'Aaron Fox.
Heat are saying, hell yeah, brother. Pat Riley's like,
Oh yeah, bail him out. Bail him out of this whole mess that's been made in Miami for sure. That
Yeah.
feels like a Kings move, doesn't it?
yeah, I feel like the Heat front office should be calling, like, they have a direct line to get above Monty McNair and offer that right now. Can they do that?
Well, according to Sam Amick, it's Rich Paul who's conducting the trade calls right now. And as we
I
also
love-
know, the Miami Heat have mended their fences with Clutch Sports over
Oh.
the past 12 months.
You've hit on
So-
this several times.
And I had done it for a reason. I think they would love to be in on the De'Aaron Fox business, but I don't know if the whole thing is if San Antonio ends up being in really, and again, it sounds like maybe San Antonio is De'Aaron Fox's preferred destination. We have still not, as of the time of us recording this, heard whether or not the Spurs want De'Aaron Fox. But if the Spurs want De'Aaron Fox in any meaningful way, they could pretty much beat any offer that's out there, right?
Mhm.
Because the other teams that are like that have an equal amount of picks, Brooklyn, Oklahoma City, like these teams are not going to get in on the De'Aaron Fox business right now.
Yeah. Any other fits you like besides San Antonio or Miami? Is there anywhere else you could consider?
I would, if I'm Houston, I wouldn't do it. I don't know if I said that already, but I agree with them. I wouldn't shake anything up right now. He's not exactly the right fit for them. I would like the Lakers fit, but it doesn't sound like he's interested in going to the Lakers. But yeah, no, not really. Like De'Aaron Fox is a really good player. He's a really interesting player, but he's still like a smallish point guard who needs the ball in his hands. It's not like the easiest player to fit in. Like if you already have a lead ball handler in the backcourt, De'Aaron Fox probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you. Like Detroit, I could see maybe getting in on the mix,
Yeah.
but they don't really have the stuff that makes any sense. They're like 2 years behind of where Sacramento is right now, so they don't really have the stuff. Orlando would be really interesting.
Orlando would be really interesting. You have to give up some real stuff there, though, which is like a real risk to what they're building there.
Yeah,
there's
you
not
wouldn't.
a lot.
So you would basically, if Sacramento asked and they would for like one of Paolo or Franz, you would just say no if you were Orlando, right?
Yeah, if
I think you
if
would. I don't
Rich-
think you could include either of those guys.
No, you can't. If Rich Paul was shadow doing them just a little bit more, I would be like, if I'm David Griffin, I'm like Zion for De'Aaron Fox, just seeing what happens.
Here's a
but,
crazy one.
yeah.
If you're the Clippers, would you just say, here's James Harden
Oh my God.
and Kawhi Leonard, and this could just be your team? It
Oh
would.
my
You can
God.
have Sabonis, Kawhi, who's on the up and up, Harden, and all the guys you want. Just make sure that you give us Fox and any unwanted contract. Give us. We will house your Kevin Herters and your Trey Lyles and all these other things. We'll take DeRozan back if you don't want him. But we get De'Aaron Fox and we have a star for the future. I kind of love that if I'm the Clippers. And if Sacramento really wants to just stay competitive, you could do worse than having Sabonis, Harden, and Kawhi in Sacramento. That would be crazy.
It'd be crazy. It would
I mean,
be
the
very
Clippers got
2K.
off it.
Yeah,
It would be
the
very
Cl-
2K.
the Clippers get Fox out of it, and they're just like they pivot into this new era, and like it all end up being okay. It'd be crazy. Kawhi absolutely is not reporting to Sacramento. Would be my guess.
Ah, he's
I
got to
don't.
get paid. I don't know.
Yeah, boy, agents would be doing a lot of work behind the scenes. I think to blow up trades to Sacramento would be my guess. Unfortunately, that's just a hunch. That like the agents of those guys are like, yeah, my guy doesn't want to show up there. It'd be tough.
Where do you want to see him go?
I think I my top choice would be the Heat because I think him and Bam and Hero
Same.
is just like
Yep.
that's like
Yep.
I think he's great with Wemby and Castle as well. I think he is just like age wise ready to plug. He'd be perfect to plug into what's going on in Miami and go. Spurs, it's a little
get
more
me
of
that-
like doesn't line up exactly the same.
I'm with you on that. And with what Miami has found with Khalil Ware and Bam in that front court, you got those guys. Fox as a real lob thrower, a kind of true point guard. We know what he can do in a two-man game. We just saw it with Sabonis. But Sacramento's ceiling is because both of them are minus defenders. You can kind of copy and paste that. But Bam is maybe the best defender in the league outside of Victor Wembanyama at this point. So you don't have that some sort of same inherent ceiling when you're basing your team around those two guys. Plus, Hero could space the floor. Ware's been awesome. Could win Rookie of the Year. And then they got a lot of guys who can kind of plug into that fifth spot.
Yeah, no, they're just gonna find another Max Strus in a year anyway. Like
Mhm.
they're just gonna find like that kind of guy over and over again, and maybe you buy low on a wing at some point. I think the Heat are the best right now basketball fit. The Spurs fit is obviously like if you want to throw gasoline on the Wembanyama fire and just go for it, that's also great. Those are the two that I really like. Those are the only two that I love. I don't necessarily think I love any of the other options, but those two I could get excited about crushing a lot of those games. All right, Wes, let's talk about Jimmy Butler before we get out of here. So what's going on right now, man? Like, what's the temperature check in South Beach? We got a suspension indefinitely, left practice. I saw the video of him maybe getting in like an argument with someone at like a nightclub in Miami, if I'm not mistaken.
It was
Like,
not a
what?
nightclub. It was a paddle ball tournament, from what I understand,
Okay.
or a paddle
Okay.
tournament. I don't know if we call it paddle
Okay.
ball. Yeah.
What's going on?
Everybody is ready to turn the page on the Jimmy Butler era. It's gotten to the point where, yes, he did walk out of practice, shoot around to be specific, after he was informed that he was going to be yanked from the starting lineup. Talking with some players, it wasn't like a Minnesota Timberwolves, you effing need me type of thing. It was just sort of he quietly walked out early and then got suspended indefinitely.
That's growth.
So
That's Jimmy Butler. That's growth. That's growth for not MFing everyone. And
well,
and
what's interesting about that, Chris, is that the punishment does not meet the crime, right?
no,
This is something that I would guess, not reporting this, I would guess probably happened in the past. Jimmy Butler decided that he was done with shoot around and left early, and he wasn't suspended after that. I'm guessing that's probably happened at some point over the last 5.5 years, other than this on Monday. But the Heat are looking for every reason to suspend this guy and keep this guy away from the team because they realize he's bad for the environment. He's bad for the team. Even when he's on the court, the way that he's been playing this month since he's asked for the trade has been a negative. The Heat have to literally play around him. You've seen like Jaime Jaquez have to dribble around Jimmy Butler because he's just standing in the dunker spot while Jaime is trying to score a layup. So they want him away. They want him away from the team, and they're going to find every reason. Like if he coughs wrong, if he sneezes in the middle of an Eric Spoelstra sermon, he's going to get suspended indefinitely. So I think with that, I think it's pretty clear what the Heat want. I think Jimmy Butler has made very clear what it is that he wants. He wants to get traded. And you've seen now both sides, Jimmy Butler say, you know what? It doesn't have to be Phoenix. And Miami, according to Windhorst on ESPN on Tuesday, saying that they've even lowered their asking price for Jimmy Butler. And so you've both sides are sort of being like, whatever we can do to move past this is what we're willing to do.
The part about this that's also interesting are the teams that have come up since. It's the Warriors and the Sixers. I cannot see the Vince Goodwill at Yahoo had reported the Sixers part of it, which would be centered around Paul George. Everything we've heard about the Heat up to this point about what they want in this trade package, I don't think they're taking on Paul George in the 3 max years left on his contract. I cannot see that happening. So I don't think that.
I would be very surprised if that. I would be very surprised if that happened.
The Warriors one is the one that I thought has always made a lot of sense. It depends if the Kuminga thing complicates the 2026 cap space thing that the Heat seem to be angling for. Because if you get him, you're paying him. There's some logistics there.
They wouldn't be getting Kuminga.
Okay, so
That's the part that's interesting here, is because now that they've openly lowered their asking price. So the Warriors have not been interested in Jimmy Butler. Like when Steph and Draymond are out here saying that we want to be patient, we don't want to mortgage the future. It could be a company line. I tend to believe them. I don't think that the Warriors are interested in mortgaging the future. But if you can get Jimmy Butler without mortgaging the future, then all of a sudden you have way fewer excuses not to do it. Now, I think you would have to ask Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, hey, do you want to be in the same locker? Do you want Jimmy Butler in this locker room? And if the answer is no, then they're not going to do it. I don't think.
Right.
But if the answer is like, well, it's only going to cost us, maybe, a couple of contracts and we're not going to mortgage the future and we don't have like that guilt on our hands. I don't know. Maybe they could be talked into it. They're only, I think, a game over 500 while we're talking right now. So I think I would still be a little surprised if Golden State seriously pursued Jimmy Butler at this point. He doesn't feel like a Warriors kind of guy.
So if it's not one of those two, then Wes, is it still Phoenix? Like where is it where is the landing spot then? This I thought we were candidly when we recorded last week. I thought by the time we got to Sunday, you and I were going to be finding 20 minutes on Sunday to do an emergency pod. I was like, all right, I'm going to try to stay at home for the day. I'm going to get my workout done and be around, and it didn't happen. Which is the nature of it. If it's not one of those two places, where in the world is Jimmy Butler ending up?
It's got to be a team that's like nearly as desperate as Phoenix, right?
Okay, here's what I will just say. There's literally no team in the world. I had a segment planned for the show, Wes. That was going to be called As the Sun Burns, which is the soap opera that I'm going to pitch about the Phoenix Suns. I'm going to bring back soap operas in America because we got Yusuf Nurkic saying on record that he hasn't talked to Budenholzer in weeks. Budenholzer then doesn't really deny it very much. So that happened. And then Bradley Beal's wife or fiance, can't remember which, talks about a fan absolutely like doing some insane heckling. And like every single day, even when they win games, the Suns are just like, what if we just like continue to be the weirdest team in the NBA and the most drama-filled team in the NBA? They're a soap opera.
Well, Jimmy Butler and the Heat are giving them a run for their money, but I think about Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a team that just keeps coming up. If the Chris Middleton thing is done, man, like this guy is a former 3-time All-Star, co-star to Giannis during a championship year. Means everything to that franchise, but he ain't the same guy anymore. And if you're the Bucks, every time they have slipped from title contention, they have made a big move, whether that was getting Drew Holiday or trading Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard, or right now, I wonder if they would get in on the Jimmy Butler stuff. I really do. And so is it, and if the Heat have lowered their price, is it just Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis? Is that it? Because
Probably.
if that's it, then if you're Milwaukee, you almost have to do it, right? And so
Yeah.
That's the team that keeps coming up. Memphis keeps coming up as a name that
Even
people
though
talk about, even though Jimmy Butler has told them.
Yeah, he doesn't want to go there.
But Memphis could still say, all right, bet. Like we'll do it anyway. We don't care.
If the price is lower, then what's the harm?
Exactly.
Unless you're that worried about
everything's
the
about
vibes.
risk reward. Everything's about risk reward. And if the risk is now mitigated because Miami has lowered their price and it costs you Marcus Smart, John Conchar, and Luke Kennard or something, then if you're Memphis, you almost have no choice but to not give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, he walks in free agency and you say, all right, see you later, pal. That's it. I think the other part of this too that Jimmy Butler has to realize and might be realizing now is that max contract that he thinks is going to be out there that he can use as leverage in terms of, hey, Memphis, if you trade for me, I'm opting out because I'm going to get a contract somewhere else. That contract isn't out there. And his best bet is probably to opt into $52 million anyway and then figure this out later. At this point, I know this all started because of money, but I don't know that there's a world where Jimmy Butler gets the money that he wants.
I don't think there
We're
is.
on or off the Heat, right? And so
I think that door's shut.
at some point, you just have to be like, all right, do I want a job or not?
The place, the landing spot that I which is sort of there's a basketball reason the Bucks make sense, and I think a money reason the Bucks make sense. The Bucks are going to be in a spot with Dame and Giannis and him, where they just have to go for it, right? Like if you get Jimmy Butler, even if he takes a pay cut to some degree, he gets in the 40s or something, but he gets 3 years, like maybe 2 years in some kind of option. He's going to do it. And the Bucks would kind of have to do it. Like that's in a lot of ways like why the Bucks would be an ideal landing spot. The Grizzlies could just wipe their hands and still be in great shape without giving up too much. The Bucks cannot. The Bucks, if they do this, if they trade Middleton, it's like you are pot committed to Jimmy Butler for the next 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, and you're not gonna be able to flip him again. I thought about them for a half second for Fox, just like Middleton for Fox, but obviously Damon Fox makes literally no sense. You're just
no, and that's
points at that point.
That's the other thing too is there are some teams that might prefer Fox over Jimmy Butler or Fox over Levine or whatever. Like Fox becomes the number one guy, like you said before. There are some teams that where Jimmy Butler still just makes more sense for them, and I think Milwaukee is one of them.
Go on the record now. I think Jimmy Butler is on the Bucks before the deadline, and I think De'Aaron Fox is a Spur. That's where I think we're ending up.
I didn't know we were doing predictions.
No, that's just me. That was on the spot. I decided.
Okay.
I just winged it.
Right.
Because it's either that or we're talking about Brandon Ingram to the Raptors, which I just can't muster much thought about. Just feels like why? One of those like, are we sure we needed to do this?
Yeah, I don't love Ingram on Toronto.
I want like all the shooting in the world around Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram next to Scotty Barnes. Just we sure? Would you rather
De'Aaron Fox?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Well, De'Aaron Fox won't re-sign there. That's the problem.
No, if this was any other agency, I think honestly, if he was represented by CAA, not saying these agencies aren't good at their jobs, but if it was like CAA Excel, it's just Clutch is so willing to get really in the muck and not worry about the dirt that it does their clients a ton of good.
Yeah.
It also would make me, if I'm a team trading for a guy who's like, I don't want to re-sign here. Like Jimmy Butler, if it's Bernie Lee, obviously you can know how messy it can get. You can probably just navigate your way out of it. The Clutch thing is like you just went to war for what?
Right.
All right. Well, in there. We'll be back later this week. We'll see if any trades actually happen. More trade rumors coming. I'm sure something else silly is going to happen, Wes, in the next day and a half. That's where we're at. We're a week away. It's the sloppiest of the sloppy seasons in the NBA. WNBA been fringing on. We got a Kelsey Plum to the Sparks trade, and Jewel Lloyd going to the Aces. Big move over in the W as well. Yeah, it's time for coffee. It's time to sneak in naps when you can. It's time to
tell me about it.
To have those Shams Expos sent right to your phone.
Those 20-minute naps are clutch these days.
You just gotta with a C or a K.
Both, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, in there, I'm Chris Manning. That's Wes Goldberg. Shout out to BetMGM. We'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the hoops and stay caffeinated.